Good morning, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. If you happen to be watching us live, if you do, you can give a call. We're talking about St. Albans issues here. 528-5315 is our number. And happy to have St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith, our regular bi-weekly guest. Tim, good to see you.
Hello, Richard.
And I think we're expecting Brendan Deso momentarily, or in a couple minutes. Brendan, of course, is St. Albans Town Selectboard Chairman. So here we are, Mr. Mayor. Boy, late July. It seems like a long kind of last 4 months or so with the pandemic, huh?
That's for sure.
Boy, so how do you, again, we're getting into, midsummer, if not even a little past midsummer. How's St. Albans faring in general these days? You're seeing a fair amount of activity, it seems?
Yeah, downtown there's appears to be some good activity.
Yeah.
I was talking to one merchant who said she was fairly busy, and a lot of it is tourism.
Really?
Which I'm not sure where they're coming from, and they're obviously not coming over the Canadian border.
Right, not doing that. I guess that's now closed, through August now?
August 31st, I think.
And boy, I'm not sure. What do you think? I think it's maybe likely the border doesn't even open again before the end of the year. I guess we'll see.
Boy, it's going to be hard to believe that's the case, but it's hard to believe we got to this point as well.
But just the border closing, as we talked about before, I mean, what a hit to folks, Franklin, Grand Isle, Chittenden counties in particular.
Yeah, no doubt. Interestingly, I received an email from an individual from Montreal who wanted to come and see his girlfriend, and
Really?
he's actually flying in. And I guess there's a loophole here that you can fly in.
Oh, is that right? Interesting.
But you're supposed to quarantine the 2 weeks or whatever it is.
But this person, I mean, there's no flights from Montreal to Berlin.
So it has to be a private plane.
Oh, okay.
But it's sort of a loophole that I don't know that anyone thought of. But I contacted the governor's office, and they said that is a possibility, and that the individual has to quarantine either before leaving or once he gets here. So
Interesting.
So.
I guess one of the big story we talked about last show, one of the biggest stories, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. I just read the Messenger story today. I guess Senator Patrick Leahy questioning whether they even have a funding problem. Just seems like a lot of, I don't know if you saw that story, but the senator saying that they're not in the, the fiscal hole that they were saying they were in, but.
Oh, right. I didn't get a chance to read that.
Yeah, but besides that, I guess Leahy and some of the folks in Congress were prepared to try to bail out that agency if need be. Of course, the huge local news with, about 1,100 furloughs expected,
Right.
I guess as in August, as in the not too distant
August
future.
3rd, I believe.
Wow. So you're hearing anything new on that front?
I have not heard anything. We've reached out. We've tried to get a stat as to how many of those actually live in Franklin County.
Yeah.
That hasn't been forthcoming yet, but it'll be interesting to see. And obviously, any layoff is going to have an impact, but it'd be curious to know what the actual number is for sure.
Yeah, so I guess we're talking about 1,100 out of the service center in St. Albans and Essex?
Essex, correct, yep.
So you're not sure what the breakdown or how many folks?
No. And Department of Labor doesn't even have that, so
Really?
it's not too readily available, at least not being shared, so.
Yeah. I guess the big news nationally is just with unemployment issues and the CARES Act, the extra $600 a week that some folks who have been getting unemployment have been getting. That runs out, I'm hearing. I know it's the end of the month. Sometimes it references this week or the end of the month, maybe a 1 week difference there.
Right.
And it sounds like Republicans and Democrats have a very different outlook on what should be done. I mean, it sounds like I'm even hearing some Democrats saying that $600, it's for some folks they're getting, a lot more money than they would be getting if they're working.
No
So
doubt.
it doesn't seem like a crazy thing to say that for some folks that probably is a disincentive to go back to work. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think that definitely is the case.
Yeah.
If you were making, minimum $15 an hour, you're making well over that now.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that many of our manufacturers are looking to hire.
I'm seeing Perigo signs again. I know you said they had hired a number of people.
Ben and Jerry's has been looking.
Really?
They've Barry Calabo.
Really?
So there's been a number of companies that are looking to hire as well. So, the timing may be right for some of those people to if that benefit goes away, then timing's right for people to get employed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. The Democrats and Republicans, I guess the Democrats, in the House have already passed another $3 trillion. I think package. Republicans talking about a $1 trillion, but maybe they'll compromise. We'll see, but it's totally up in the air.
Yeah, no, it's, as I've shared this before. I mean, I get it. The need is there, but at the same time, I'm also curious about the long-term impacts of all this.
Yeah.
In terms of two things: in terms of if the economy is going to recover and when that is, and then the other piece is just what the impact is on generations to come.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of questions. Hey, I think I heard Brendan Deso joining us, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman. Morning, Brendan.
Hi, how are you?
How you doing? Any dog issues this morning?
No, not at all. No, I'll sit there on that.
No, good to see you. So again, we're about 4 months into the pandemic, 4+ months, I guess. St. Albans Town, how's the town faring in general these days? Are things are probably not getting exactly back to normal, but is the town faring relatively well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our delinquency rates are better than normal, and all seems to be well. We've got maybe 200,000 on the books in unpaid taxes, according to the treasurer, and maybe 130,000 of that is just two separate payments, and they're both coming.
And are those numbers a lot higher than usual, or not particularly?
They're less.
Really?
Yeah, we're in good shape.
Huh.
We're in good shape. I've got no complaints.
Yeah.
Our tax bills are going out, and we'll see what the August quarterly payment looks like. But should be in good shape. Our tax rate's up 2.5 cents. The education rate is up 4 cents.
Yeah, as I recall, you had some thoughts on the education rate last time
typo in
around.
the state's email. Thank God. It took all of 20 minutes to sort it out after I walked out of here, but.
No, really?
So 7.5 cents, 6.5 cents roughly.
Yeah.
Worth of an increase for folks, so.
So tax bills going out, they can go out pretty soon now?
Yeah, no, they were being printed yesterday.
Oh, really?
So we authorized the tax rate last Monday night, and they were printed yesterday.
Yeah.
And they should be hitting the mail today.
Tim, what about the city? Your tax bills going out pretty soon?
Ours are out already.
Oh, already out? I can look forward to getting that soon, huh?
I think we still have 2 more payments on this year.
Right,
So
August and November, I believe.
Yeah. So, and then they'll, we'll be vote on it for March, but we're set for this year.
And again, the tax bills that folks will be getting, they're not going to, nothing too crazy given what's been going on here, or?
Well, we're living by what we have already set.
Yeah.
So there will be no changes on ours.
Okay.
The one that is going to be interesting is how school handles it moving forward. So, really haven't heard much from the school district relative to what their plans are, or what the impact's going to be. So,
What about, we just started, of course, a new fiscal year just, 3 weeks and a day ago. What about, I know we talked about how much of a hole that the city hit with what happened, later in the last fiscal year. Is it clear how much of a deficit the city picked up in the last fiscal year?
not yet, no.
No?
No, those numbers aren't in yet,
Yeah.
but that's a good question. I'll have that for the next
Yeah.
show. But no, we don't, the council hasn't been notified of that yet. I do know, to Brendan's point, the last payment in May for taxes was pretty much normal in terms of delinquency. It wasn't, there wasn't anything excessive that we weren't, that's going to impact us significantly. We're pretty much on course with what it has been in the past. But with that said, there's still some changes in the wind, obviously, with the immigration fallout and what that impact's going to be.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where we stand.
Right. Brendan, what do you hear from your constituents these days? I mean, I guess people are kind of used to this kind of crazy times we're in, but any particular issues that keep coming up when people talk to you?
Honestly, I hear very little.
Really?
I haven't been called. I have not been called in probably 2 weeks.
Really?
So folks are fairly content.
Yeah. You're getting closer to public meeting. What about your select board meetings? Have you gone back to public meetings at this point, or?
So we're still meeting in person. We're having the public call in via Zoom. It's
Yeah.
not working as well as it should.
Yeah,
We're exploring what it would look like to maybe host a meeting or two at the new town garage.
yeah,
And I might have a decision made on that by August 3rd.
yeah,
But the thought is it's not to be ageist, but a lot of the folks who do call in and listen to our meetings or
Right.
attend in person pre-COVID have a hard time with Zoom. We're having a hard time making sure our audio coming out of our boardroom is
yeah,
audible. We've got to make a change. If we really want public buy-in to our town hall project,
yeah,
we're going to have to give people a good opportunity to participate.
yeah.
So I imagine we'll take a couple stabs at a couple different things and then figure out what works and what doesn't and go from there. And by the time we have a system that works extremely well, we'll probably have a vaccine out, so.
Tim, how are you feeling? You're still zooming?
Yeah, but Councilman Hawkins commented at our last meeting that he was frustrated with it, and
Yeah.
I think the consensus is that we'd like to try to do something similar to what the town has done in person, but we have the auditorium, so we could
Right.
do social distancing, and I mean, we did have a meeting when we had the MRI presentation, and that seemed to be fine.
Yeah,
So I think that's sort of what we're looking at for the August meeting for sure.
MRI being what, Municipal Resources, Inc., the outside firm?
Right.
Taking a look at the police department?
Right.
So and again, at this point, is there an active search for a new permanent police chief? or is that-
Hasn't started yet, no.
Hasn't started? Not too far in the future, or not clear?
We've talked about it. I think we want to get through the MRI stuff and then put it out, but I think we're looking at fall.
And what's the most significant information you're getting from MRI at this point? Anything real noteworthy?
No, there's a lot of administrative stuff that they're working on,
Yeah.
documentation, recruitment, that type of stuff, so
Yeah.
nothing substantial.
Yeah. Well, in reaction, we talked about it on the last show with the Sheriff's Department getting the contract to patrol St. Albans Sound. What reaction have you gotten to that with the Sheriff's Department winning that contract? Much reaction from your city constituents? Is there disappointment about that, or no big deal?
I haven't heard much. I saw Roger a week, 10 days ago, congratulate him. He, and we talked about it, he and Mo Lamont, interim chief, are, work together, State Police and Friends, and Mo sent him an email and said, if any way we can work on it. So from constituents, I think a lot of people feel that maybe timing's right. I mean, if there is a right time that we can focus on the city police, getting them to a point where whoever the new chief is, we're in a good position, and we can focus on that more so than trying to maintain police force for both city and town. So it's not a secret that it hits a budget a little bit, and we'll work towards balancing that. But I've always said, and I've told Brendan this, I said, sometimes you have to experience another option before you may know how good or how bad you had it before. So, it'll be an opportunity for the town to see what they were getting from the city, if it was maybe more than they thought or less than they thought. So,
Do you think, would you think you'd go after Highgate? Of course, you have a one-year contract with Highgate now. Do you think you would go for that again, and maybe even other
yeah, I
things,
don't, Highgate hasn't been overwhelming by any means, so I think we have a good relationship, so I think we would try to maintain that for sure.
How much coverage does Highgate get from you folks, do you know?
Yeah, good question.
32 hours a week or something.
Is it 30? I was going to say 24, but.
It was 24. I think they upped it as
Yeah,
much
you're
as
right,
they could.
yep.
So part-time coverage,
Yeah,
obviously.
oh, yeah.
Brendan, what about reaction? Are you getting, again, you said you haven't heard from too many folks, and I should mention for folks watching us live, our number 528-5315. Give a call if you feel so inclined. I think people are, you're getting positive, or again, not much reaction to
Not much.
the Sheriff's Department a year hence patrolling the town again? Not much?
Nothing.
Right.
Hardly anything at all.
Really?
Social media, I mean,
And everybody's just real content out there, I guess.
well, the messenger posted it and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office shared it when we announced who
Yeah.
we decided to go with. And I expected comments ranging from, those idiots at the town shouldn't have done that,
Yeah.
to, good thing we got that police department out of our town. I was expecting it to come at me from all angles, and all it was likes and shares, and nobody tagged me in any nasty posts, and there was nothing. There was
Yeah.
nothing. It was surprisingly better than expected.
Yeah.
Interestingly, you think back 10 years ago, I think, when the.
Nasty.
And that was, I think they're calling to go to a vote, right?
They did go to a vote.
They did go to the vote,
Did
yeah.
go to
did.
the vote.
Yeah, no, and then select board members were voted off because of that. I was expecting this to turn into, especially because we were making a change, I was expecting this to turn into some drawn-out, lengthy discussion, but I don't know if it's the fact that the public can't just show up at our meeting and shoot from the hip.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that it takes that extra effort to get on a computer to be able to talk to, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
But
that might
then
be a part of
again,
it.
a lot of the same folks that come to our meetings have my phone number, and I didn't get anything. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. It's,
Of course, you could forget the last time when Sheriff Norris was in command and lost the contract to the town, that, started a long legal battle and
Yeah.
stuff. That was a big issue.
Right, that went
I
to,
think I mentioned, speaking of the former sheriff, he will be, in all likelihood, the newest member of the Franklin County Legislative Delegation come November or come January.
so he's
Sure.
running the Swanton Sheldon
He's hoping to
district.
succeed Mariana Gamache in the
Right.
Swanton Sheldon district, and I would make him a very heavy favorite. Switch his party affiliation, running as a Republican. But I'd say, it seems to me, he's close to a lock for probably
Yeah.
winning that seat. And that's probably the one change in the delegation, it would appear.
Yeah. I do just go back to the police thing. I think, part of the issue, not the issue, but part of the discussion is that the city town are getting along very well.
Yeah.
And, 10 years ago, this may have been a kick to the city if they did not get it. But I think between Brendan and I, we realize that this is just one piece of the puzzle in terms of how we cooperate together.
Yeah.
We haven't done much lately, partly due to the COVID, but, we'll get back on that and have those discussions. The one thing I hear probably the most about is what's going to happen with the pool, and do we revisit that? And I've told people, well, that's on hold, but the decision that was made by the town, and I've said it before, is that it was a business decision, and
Yeah.
the city will live with it. It's not like we're going to alienate the town from all future discussions on anything.
Yeah.
But it's, I think it shows how the two communities have grown over the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Tim, speaking of the police department, I picked up some rumblings this week. I don't know if there's anything to this, but of course the plan was for St. Albans City PD to move to a Community College of Vermont CCV headquarters on South Main Street, CCV moving to the new building under construction downtown. Heard some rumblings this week that might be a little shaky. Is there anything to that?
Not that I know
That
of.
would be news to you.
Yeah, news to me. CCV still wants to be into their space
Yeah.
by November 1.
Huh.
I have not heard, spoke to Dominic yesterday. That wasn't a part of the discussion.
Sounds like nothing to that.
I would understand if we chose to table some improvements on the new building, for
Just
sure.
given financial issues
Right.
these days.
So, and try to make it work, or with limited improvements, but I haven't heard of anything definitive by any means.
Yeah.
so.
And speaking in the downtown project, that's moving along.
Moving
pretty
along
much?
very well.
Yeah.
I think it looks great. It's, it's moving forward very well, and
Yeah.
a lot of compliments on it.
I think this is just a messenger story, might not have been today's story, but a reference to, I think, the Vermont Community Foundation coming through with some bucks for that project. I was confused. There was a reference, I think, in the story to helping to fund over 60 housing units, and they made it sound like it was in the apartment building, unless I misread that. Did you happen to see that story? I was confused by the reference to over 60 housing units.
There are 60 units.
Oh, are there really?
There's 30, and so you have basically two buildings.
Okay.
30 in each.
Okay.
One is owned by Vermont Housing or Champlain Housing, and then private. So you have market rate, and then you have low to moderate
Oh,
income.
really? How many units were in there in the old apartment?
24, I think.
Okay, I guess I was, in my mind, I was thinking it was just they were replacing, wow, so that's over
Yeah,
double what's,
And the units there before were the low to moderate housing. So
Right.
we actually have added 6 to the downtown for that, and then, as I said, market rate another 30. So
right, well, it sounds like that story was right on. Brendan, the municipal building, probably, I guess, about the biggest issue in the town. What's the latest with what you're going to do for a future town hall?
Well, we went out for an environmental site assessment. That'll be back on the old garage property in Georgia Shore that we're cleaning up. That'll be back at the end of August. The thought was to maybe site a town hall there because it was land that we already owned. There's land next door across from Wharf Street that is tentatively for sale, and we're entering into an MOU with the landowner.
There wouldn't have any remedial issues or anything like that, presumably?
I don't think, not on that piece of property, and it's already been engineered for 2 house sites.
Is it the
septic
border, is it
systems.
right on the lake?
No.
No.
So the thought is site a town hall potentially on that parcel, and then build some type of an economic driver on the lakefront property that we already own. The thought is to begin working with the state after we get our ESA reports back. Once we know exactly what's in the ground and how far in it's leached and how many cubic yards would need to be remediated, we bring that to the state and we say, let's pull that barge out of the water, let's do a little dredging and put in at least 1 or 2 boat ramps and turn it into a big boat launch, and maybe build a pavilion with some lighting so that folks could run fishing tournaments from there. The thought is water and sewer in the Bay Area, to anybody who pays attention and who has read the studies that have been done, won't happen in the near future.
Yeah.
Within 10 years, I wouldn't think. You're talking 25 million is my guesstimate at this point.
Because
So
the town was taking a look at possibly doing some of your own
No, we looked
initiatives.
everywhere. We've tried, microsystems, and that's the only possibility, but it would take a revitalization of the bay for folks to realize that the only way we can take it to the level that it needed to be to match like a Mallet Bay area would be water and sewer. So we need to start bringing people in. We've done that pretty successfully over the last few years. The park is more vibrant than it's been in 10 to 20 years. The farmers market's growing every summer. The dock, we've taken our slips out. We put in a parklet on it. It's more of a community-friendly use. It's
Which
not
I
just
appreciate. I get down there, it's certainly nice to find some benches and tables out there.
And the marina, I talked to Chuck at the marina last week. He said that they are doing fairly well. He said the border being closed might have cost him 10 slip rentals.
Yeah.
And but other than that, they're doing fairly well and they're on track. And there's quite a few boats outside looking in.
Yeah.
They've got $3.5 million invested there, and it's time for the town to get off its backside and start working on that. So the thought is attempt to build a boat launch and a new town hall in one project. One funding approval, one set of contracting, get it all done.
Yeah.
And then that might change after we talk to the state, because they build boat launches for municipalities all the time, or they, if they've got a bridge, like look at the bridges that they've taken down and then they replace them with boat launches on one side or the other. So we've got an opportunity there, and then we need to get a village center designation for the bay, and we've amended our town plan to make that possible. And then we need to take over Route 36 or Lake Road from the state as a Class 1 town highway, and before we do that, we need to make them invest potentially up to $1 million in improvements. We need to take that intersection, which is a dangerous intersection. It doesn't produce very many traffic accidents because folks who travel through that area have been since they were kids usually. And most folks get so confused by that intersection that they drive slowly to begin with.
Yeah.
So we're lucky in that sense, but we need to turn that into a four-way stop. We need to add parking for the dock parklet and for the creamy stand. That's got to be part of the equation. And we need to get them to agree to pave it every 15 years, not every 20. And we need to make sure that that entire stretch of road has no stormwater improvements that need to be done. And we were working with the state on that. I had sent a guy who works for AOT named Dave Blackmore a letter on behalf of the town saying that we were interested, and we were starting to work through that process when COVID hit. So that needs to get picked back up. Then we need to do some connectivity projects. We need to make sure that that new boat launch and town hall are connected all the way to the store, the restaurant, and the bay park, and the dock. And then we just need to pray that if we build it, they will come. And you know darn well, if you've ever owned a boat and traveled with it to do anything, that you spend a lot of money while you do it. And whatever town you're in is the main benefactor. So if we can bring outside folks in, show them how beautiful of an area we do have, and really cultivate it as an economic driver for the town, I think it could turn into one of the best recreation areas in the entire state if we really do it right. But
Yeah, sounds like you have a lot of good potential there.
yeah, we just need to fight through it and then start helping private business owners get facade grants. And we need to essentially do what the city did, but we need to do it without TIF. I mean, we need to do what they did with the downtown. We need to take something that is pretty well depreciated out and revitalize it. So I've talked with Dominic, and he's someone who's extremely familiar with all of the grants that are available and who to talk to and which folks at state government are helpful, and he said that he'd be willing to consult for us if needed. Again, like Tim said, 10 years ago, I don't think that would have been a conversation that would have
I
happened.
don't think we would have heard that.
So we're going to work towards it, and we've got, if anybody's listening to this that wants to invest in a large commercial project, we've got shovel-ready lots right in front of Walmart with water and sewer and no affiliation fee, and come get a site plan approval from our development review and get a building permit and build it. We're ready to go.
Give Brendan a call. Down there about 2 minutes. Tim, issue we have, and just briefly, the food scraps as of July 1st, food scraps banned from landfills. Strikes me as an unenforceable law, but I hooked up with Northwest Vermont Solid Waste Management District. They pick up my bucket on Monday. It's going great for me. You hearing much reaction to that, or many people jumping into that? But talk about an unenforceable law. I don't think the trash people are looking into your trash bags.
I think that's a trend on the state level, is that we have many of these unenforceable laws that are
Just another
implemented.
one, huh?
I think I haven't followed it too closely because we compost at home on a regular basis.
Right.
But the people I've spoken to are, I think the education of the program has been limited, and maybe it's due to COVID and all that.
Yeah,
but,
not getting a ton of attention.
and that's the biggest complaint. How do we do this? What do we do? And I've educated a couple folks on that. You can pay your $10 a month at Northwest Solid Waste, and they'll pick it up, like you, Richard. And,
And that's worked out great. It seems like
So-
they've been easy to deal with.
So that's what, they came up at work. What are we doing with our scraps? Well, I didn't think about work. And I said, we'll get a bucket and try to figure that out. So,
Tim, any final, down to about 30 seconds, any final word here?
yeah, no, we'll keep plugging away. I think the hot topic in the region is school resource officers, of which I'm a fan of as a parent and as mayor for sure. And maybe we talk about that a little bit more. I think that's... I think the school system, or the school board, and the administration are on board with it. So I think it would be a loss to get rid of the program. So.
I guess we're going to leave it there. Thanks to Brendan Deso, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman, St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. And thanks especially to the guy who does all the hard work with the show, in this case, our producer, Alan Cunningham. Thanks for watching us, folks. Hopefully see you in a couple weeks.